The transmission came through at exactly 3 in the morning. Captain Elena Rodriguez was drinking her 4th cup of coffee when the communication officer nearly fell out of his chair. The message was simple. It was direct. And it was definitely not from Earth. The United Nations Emergency Council gathered within hours. Military leaders stood shoulder to shoulder with scientists and diplomats. Everyone was nervous. Everyone was scared. Humanity had dreamed of this moment for centuries, but now that it was here, the reality felt heavy and cold. The message translated easily enough. The aliens called themselves the Dominion of the Eternal Stars. They had been watching Earth for decades. They had studied human broadcasts, analyzed human technology, and observed human behavior. Now they were ready to make formal contact. Their fleet would arrive in exactly 1 week. 7 days passed like 7 years. The world held its breath. News channels ran constant coverage. Religious leaders prayed. Scientists prepared their best theories. Military forces around the globe went on high alert. Children asked their parents if the aliens would be friendly. Nobody had an answer. When the ships finally appeared in Earth's orbit, they blotted out the sun. There were thousands of them. Each vessel was larger than any city on Earth. Their dark hulls seemed to swallow light itself. Smaller craft descended through the atmosphere like a swarm of metallic insects. The message came again. The Dominion wished to meet with Earth's leaders at the United Nations headquarters in New York City. Ambassador Sarah Chen was chosen to lead the human delegation. She was calm under pressure. She spoke 7 languages. She had negotiated peace treaties between nations that had been at war for generations. If anyone could handle first contact with an alien empire, it was her. The aliens landed their shuttle in the middle of the UN Plaza. Smoke and steam billowed from the craft as the landing ramp lowered. Cameras from every nation on Earth were pointed at that moment. Billions of people watched on screens and phones and tablets. History was being made. The first alien stepped down the ramp, and Ambassador Chun had to bite the inside of her cheek to keep her face neutral. The creature was about 3 feet tall. It had smooth purple skin and large yellow eyes that took up most of its face. Its body was round and soft, like a plum with arms and legs. It wore elaborate golden armor that seemed far too heavy for its tiny frame. The armor had spikes and decorations that clearly meant to look intimidating. Behind the first alien came dozens more. They marched in perfect formation, their little feet making soft pattering sounds on the concrete. Some carried weapons that looked like toys. Others held banners with symbols that probably represented their great empire. They were clearly trying very hard to appear powerful and threatening. Ambassador Chun maintained her composure. She stepped forward and offered her hand in greeting. The lead alien looked up at her. It had to crane its neck backward just to see her face. The alien spoke, and the translation device it wore converted the words into English. "I am Grand Supreme Commander Zixter of the Dominion of the Eternal Stars. We have conquered 10,000 worlds. We have brought countless species under our rule. Now we come to claim your planet in the name of eternal glory." The alien's voice came through the translator as a high-pitched squeak. It sounded like a cartoon character. Several members of the human delegation coughed to cover their surprised reactions. Ambassador Chun nodded respectfully. "Welcome to Earth. I am Ambassador Sarah Chun. Perhaps we can discuss this claim of yours in a more comfortable setting." The negotiations began inside the UN building. The Dominion representatives had to sit on stacked cushions to reach the conference table. They demanded that humanity surrender immediately. They explained that resistance was pointless. They described the terrible weapons their fleet possessed. They listed the many species they had conquered. Throughout all of this, the human delegation listened politely. They took notes. They asked questions. They maintained professional expressions, even as the little purple aliens waved their tiny fists and made dramatic threats. The real breaking point came when Grand Supreme Commander Zixter demonstrated the Dominion's most feared weapon. He pulled out a device about the size of a flashlight. He pointed it at a potted plant in the corner of the room and pressed a button. A beam of light hit the plant. The leaves wilted slightly. The alien turned back to the humans with obvious pride. This is the Devastator Ray. It can cause mild discomfort to any organic being within a range of 3 meters. Surrender now, or face this terrible power. Colonel James Mitchell, the military advisor on the delegation, had to excuse himself from the room. His shoulders were shaking as he walked out. Ambassador Chun heard him burst into laughter as soon as the door closed behind him. The aliens did not understand the reaction. They continued their presentation. They showed holographic images of their conquered worlds. Most of the planets appeared to be inhabited by species similar to themselves. Small, soft, and gentle creatures who had likely surrendered at the first sign of conflict. The Dominion had never encountered a species that did not immediately submit to their demands. Ambassador Chun asked to take a short break. The human delegation gathered in a private room. Everyone was silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then the laughter began. Secretary General Tanaka was the first to speak through his giggles. They think they are going to conquer us with that? My grandmother's hairdryer is more dangerous. Colonel Mitchell wiped tears from his eyes. Their most powerful weapon causes mild discomfort. Mild discomfort. I have experienced worse from a static shock. Dr. Lisa Park, the scientific advisor, was studying the data they had collected on the Dominion ships. Their weapon systems are incredibly weak by our standards. Their ships have almost no armor. They seem to have never encountered any real resistance. Their entire military strategy is based on intimidation. Ambassador Chun held up her hand for silence. She was trying very hard not to smile. We need to handle this carefully. They clearly believe they are a mighty empire. We cannot simply laugh in their faces. Why not? Asked Colonel Mitchell. I would pay good money to see the look on that little purple guy's face when he finds out what a nuclear weapon is, because we are better than that, Ambassador Chun replied. And because we do not know everything about them yet. They may have allies. They may have technology we have not seen. We must be diplomatic. The negotiations resumed. Ambassador Chen politely explained that Earth was not interested in being conquered. She suggested that perhaps the Dominion would prefer a trade relationship instead. The aliens were confused. They had never had anyone refuse their demands before. Grand Supreme Commander Zixter grew increasingly frustrated. He stood on his cushions and pointed one tiny finger at the humans. You do not understand. We are the Dominion. We have ruled the stars for 10,000 years. No species has ever defied us. Colonel Mitchell could not help himself. With all due respect, Commander, we have weapons on this planet that could destroy your entire fleet in seconds. Your armor is decorative. Your weapons are harmless. Your ships are unshielded. You have been very lucky that you never encountered a species that fights back. The alien stared at him. Its large yellow eyes blinked several times. You are bluffing, Ambassador Chun sighed. She pulled out a tablet and showed the aliens footage from human history. She showed them wars. She showed them weapons. She showed them the mushroom clouds of nuclear tests. She showed them tanks and missiles and bombers. She showed them humanity's long and bloody record of conflict. The aliens watched in absolute silence. Their purple skin turned a lighter shade. Several of them began to tremble. One of them fainted and had to be carried out by his companions. Grand Supreme Commander Zixter stared at the screen. His voice was barely a whisper. You do this to each other? Your own species? We have not always been peaceful, Ambassador Chun admitted. We are working on it. But yes, we are quite good at fighting. The alien sat down heavily on his cushions. He looked at his fellow Dominion representatives. They all looked back at him with fear in their eyes. For the first time in their history, they had encountered a species that was more dangerous than them. Perhaps, the Grand Supreme Commander said slowly, we should discuss this trade relationship you mentioned. The negotiations took a different turn after that. The Dominion was suddenly very interested in friendship. They offered technology and resources. They asked many questions about human history. They seemed genuinely horrified by the answers. After several days of talks, a treaty was signed. The Dominion would establish peaceful relations with Earth. They would share knowledge and engage in mutual trade. They would absolutely not attempt to conquer the planet that had invented nuclear weapons and use them on itself. Before they left, Grand Supreme Commander Zixter made one final request. He asked to speak with Ambassador Chun privately. She agreed, curious about what he wanted to say. The little alien looked up at her with his enormous eyes. I must confess something. When we first observed your planet, we thought you would be easy to conquer. Your broadcasts showed such silly entertainment. Your species seemed obsessed with trivial things. We assumed you were weak. Ambassador Chen smiled. Many have made that mistake. I understand that now. You are the most terrifying species we have ever encountered. You fight wars for resources, for ideology, for honor, and sometimes for no reason at all. You have weapons that can destroy cities in an instant. You have survived ice ages and plagues and disasters that would have ended most civilizations. And yet you continue to grow stronger. The ambassador nodded. We are resilient. You are monsters, the alien said, but there was respect in his voice. Beautiful, creative, terrible monsters. I am very glad we did not try to fight you. Ambassador Chun laughed. It was a genuine laugh, full of warmth and humor. Commander, I hope this is the beginning of a wonderful friendship between our peoples. The Dominion fleet left Earth orbit that evening. News spread across the planet about what had happened. The story of the tiny purple aliens who thought they could conquer humanity became legendary. People laughed about it for years. Comedians made jokes. Movies were made. Children played games where they pretended to be the mighty Dominion warriors with their terrifying mild discomfort weapons. But beneath the laughter was a serious realization. Humanity was not alone in the universe, and they had just proven that they could hold their own against an empire that had conquered thousands of worlds. The stars were waiting, and humanity was ready to meet them. Ambassador Sarah Chun received many awards for her work during the First Contact event. She gave speeches about diplomacy and understanding. But when reporters asked her what she remembered most about that historic meeting, she always gave the same answer. The look on that little alien's face when he realized what a nuclear weapon was. That is something I will never forget. And then she would laugh. Because sometimes the universe had a wonderful sense of humor. And sometimes humanity was the punchline that nobody expected.